All right, it looks like we are definitely live. I'm excited that you are here with me if you have already connected. My name is Rhonda M. Jordan, for those of you that don't know me, and I'd like to extend a special welcome to everyone who is joining me live. I also want to say hello to everyone that is also watching the replay. It's always exciting to see how many people actually watch the replay. What we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be sharing some information that I just don't think many new solopreneurs really find out until they're in the thick of things. And I just don't think it's shared enough. So, because I'm that person with that numbers background, I'm a former CPA for those of you that don't know me. Numbers are kind of my jam. And I always make sure that when I am sharing this type of information with people, that I make it as simple as possible because not everyone is really into numbers and analytics and everything else. So if you happen to be on with me today, joining me live, feel free to just drop into the chat, tell me where you're watching from. And the other thing I always suggest is that you have a way of taking notes. So if that is, physically writing it out or using your note feature on your computer, whatever it is that makes you most comfortable, you definitely want to take notes on the topic we're going to cover today, simply because it's going to help you. And this is a topic that as you take those notes, I want you to put them away, review them periodically, but definitely put them away for a point where you're wondering if this business thing is really working for you. So today, what we're going to be discussing is benchmarks, business benchmarks for those of you in the online space. So again, this, like, I don't think is discussed enough, and unfortunately it is one of those things that, because it's not discussed enough, a lot of people think they are falling behind. More likely than not, you are not behind. You are simply falling into the normal averages. You're in that space where you don't realize that what you're doing is in fact working. So just take that to heart and understand that this type of information is definitely something that will be beneficial. All right, I've rambled on enough. Let's go ahead and jump right into the topic. So the first thing that I want to share with you is kind of my own story as it relates to all of this. And I've been in this online space for years now, in a different area originally, but now teaching and selling digital products, that type of thing. So, what I want you to understand is that when you don't fully understand the numbers, you may be thinking that the business is just not working for you. You see it working for other people, but you don't understand why it's not working for you. And that was kind of my experience, which was, you put something out there that you think is really good. You've put your time and energy and effort into, but it's just not selling. Or people, if it's a lead magnet, people are not requesting it or downloading it. And I'm going to share with you some of the primary reasons why that happens as we get further into the actual training. So, what I want to start off by doing is making sure that you understand that with this type of content, you have to understand, or with this type of information, you just have to understand it and know what is normal and what may require you to do some type of, changes or adjustments. And really, in the online marketing space, that's what this is. This is not an exact science. You may see two people who are doing very well and they're using two completely different strategies, and that's perfectly normal. That's why you're going to have to test and adjust and so forth. All right, the thing about benchmarks, though, business benchmarks, is they're going to help keep you grounded and help you keep moving toward your, desired outcome or your desired goal, whatever that happens to be. And without having the benchmarks, and specifically without reviewing the numbers, what you're going to find is that you're really not going to know how well you're doing. The second thing is there could be some minor adjustments that you could make if you were following the numbers and really reviewing them, that could help you do even better. So just be aware of that as well. And, in this type of business, and I don't think this is shared with people enough, is it's all about it being a numbers game. There's a saying that says the law of large numbers will never fail you, which simply means that, if in fact something isn't working, increase your numbers, increase your activity, increase the traffic to your page and so forth, and things will begin to work in your favor. So let's go ahead and get into some of the key benchmarks that I think every solopreneur, one person business owner should know, simply because this kind of information is going to help you know if you're on track or if you need to make adjustments. So let's first start off by talking about traffic and conversions. What do I mean by traffic? That's just simply the people who are visiting your pages, whether that's your landing page, your offer pages, your sales pages, and so forth. It could even be, if you have a blog or something like that, it could be your blog, it could be your YouTube channel or your social media pages and so forth. Now, I'm going to focus for this example, though, on traffic to offer pages or sales pages. And here's something that most people just are blown away when they first hear it, especially when they're new. And that is that it typically takes 100 visits to your sales page or your offer page in order to make 1 to 2 sales. Now, I know that number can seem huge, and it is a big number no matter how you look at it. But just think about that. 100 people need to visit your sales page or your landing page in order to make 1 to 2 sales. Now, here's the thing. As you become more skilled and as you learn how to really connect with your ideal customer and your audience, you're going to be able to make adjustments to your sales and offer pages that can, in fact, increase that number. Now, I've seen people get to the point of, 5 or 6% as an average. Now, that doesn't mean that you might not have lightning in a bottle kind of strikes where, you're converting even higher than that, but that's not the norm. So, your biggest goal is to, if you're trying to figure out why you have either a landing page or a lead magnet that's not getting requested, or if you have something that you've created in the form of like a digital product and it's not selling, your thing is to figure out how many people are actually visiting that page. And so that means you've got to have some type of tracking mechanism in place in order to be able to see how many people actually visited the page. Now, once you know how many people visited the page, now you want to see what your conversion rate is. And your conversion rate is just based upon the number of people that visited, how many people took action. That's what you're looking for. So again, remember the average for a sales page is going to be 1 to 2% are going to actually convert and request your download, whatever it is, or purchase your product if that happens to be the case. Now, the next thing is this. As I mentioned, a really warm audience can convert at a higher rate, or I should have mentioned that a warm audience can convert at a higher rate. Now, what is a warm audience? That's somebody that has been in your space, in your world for a while. People that watch your videos, people that are subscribed to your email list, individuals that, for example, are subscribed or follow your social media accounts. And when you jump on live or you create a post, they're reading it, they're commenting, they're, expressing their ideas regarding that. That is a warm audience. If you're talking a cold audience, though, people that are first time, getting connected to you or first meeting you or first seeing you, that is a cold audience. And that conversion rate is definitely going to be more in that 1 to 2%. Now, let's go back to the warm audience for a while. The reason why I really push making sure that you move people off of social media or YouTube, if it happens to be the case, or TikTok, whichever one it is, you want to move them off of that and onto your email list because that's going to allow you to warm them up. And again, people who are on your email list that are hearing from you on a regular basis, once a week, they're getting your email messages and so forth, that's warm. So the law of large numbers. In order to get more of a warm audience, then you have to make sure that you're getting more people onto your list. Now, I know for a lot of you, you have built, pretty sizable social media accounts, and that's great. But if the only place you have a connection with the audience is on that social media account, spend the time getting them onto your email list. How do you do that? You're going to create a lead magnet. And a lead magnet just has to be something that's going to help them in some way that they find valuable enough to exchange their email address for whatever you've created. It needs to solve a problem. Now, one of the things I've done, which should help you out in terms of getting that lead magnet created, is I have linked below a free guide that will help you create your very first lead magnet. It's in the description box below. So if you need help in that area, go ahead and grab it and get working on that. And then from that point forward, you're going to start promoting it to get more people on your list. Now, the other thing is, even when you are you have a sales page that's up and running or an offer page, just understand that it's going to take time in order for you to get consistent traffic, to reach a number. And your goal is not for you to have these peaks and valleys on your offer page. Your goal is to have a consistent level of traffic that is going to that page. Now, how can you possibly do that? Well, some of the ways that you can do that would be something as simple as just making sure that you have, if you're using, let's say, YouTube, you can make sure that you are, in fact, mentioning your offer. You can have it listed as the bio link. You know how you can typically have one link or something like that, or maybe more links if you want. But I recommend that whatever it is that you want to drive traffic to, you have that listed as the first link. And if it's something you're selling, make that the only link. So as you are talking about it in videos or posting about it, you're easily able to send people to that. Now, another thing too is just know that you're going to have to evaluate your pieces of content to figure out which pieces of content are doing a better job of converting people. So you might find that, for example, let's say you have 2 lead magnets. You may find that one of them is just doing a much better job of converting and getting people onto your email list. If it's a product that you're selling, you may need to do some testing where it's called A/B testing, where you have 2 different versions of, let's say, an offer page, or where you change out some of the content in the offer. Maybe you change the button color, the buy now button color, maybe you change the headline, but you only do one thing at a time. And that may be the way for you to find out what is actually converting. So just be aware of that as well. Now, another thing that I want to share with you as it relates to, or let me just finish that up by saying, just understand these types of things are not going to suddenly change your traffic coming into those pages overnight. You're going to have to take some time to do that. All right, so we've talked a little bit about sales page conversions and what it's going to take in order for that to happen. So 1 to 2%. Now, let's talk email, because this is something I think that people are a little bit blown away because they feel like they've taken the time to develop this relationship with their audience because they're connecting with them on a weekly basis by sending out an email message. They've given them what they feel is a high quality lead magnet. But I want to share with you what your average open rates are going to be for your typical email messages. All right. And that's going to be around 25 to 35%. So let's just do some real numbers here. If you have 100 people on your email list and you're sending out a weekly email, only 25 to 35 of them are actually going to open the email. And that's pretty typical. Now, here's what I can tell you is also when you have links that are embedded in your email messages, only 2 to 5% of those who open it are actually going to click on those links. So that might kind of surprise you because I think a lot of people feel like, but I'm sending out all this valuable information. I'm sending all of this out when people aren't even opening it. Well, that's just the way it goes. And so, as it relates to open rates, just understand that it takes time to figure out what's going to get people to open the emails. Now, every now and then I'll, get to a point where with one of my email messages, I'll have a 46, 47% open rate on average. That does not happen often. Mine typically is my overall average for open rates is around 33%. So I feel like I'm right in the average. Now, when I do, in fact, have an email message that gets opened much more than what my regular email messages are or how they're getting open, I pay attention to that. And the reason I pay attention to that is I look to see what was different about that particular email. Was it the subject line? Was it the content pillar that I was working in for that particular email message? Was it the way, I'm trying to figure out what it was that actually had people opening it. Now, the other thing is when I create email messages, and I encourage you to do this as well, I want you to have multiple email subject lines. And here's what I mean by that. Don't just go with one subject line. I want you to come up with maybe 3 to 5 different subject lines, or if you want to drop it into ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT to come up with 10 subject lines. And what you're going to do from there is really take a look at them and figure out based upon what you've created, what you've come up with, or what ChatGPT has come up with, what might be a subject line that would make people open it, because that is really important. The whole thing is all of your content in your email messages could be phenomenal, but if people don't open them, they're not going to know. So you have to really make sure that you put some work into the subject line. Don't just go with the first thing that comes to mind. Really play around with it and come up with it. And when you find a formula that seems to be working for you, then what I want you to do is to repeat that. Maybe make some additional, when you're creating additional email messages, I want you to come up with, perhaps a formula that is similar for a different type of email message that you're sending out, because that in and of itself may increase your email open rates. Now, the second thing, in order to get people to click on the items that are in the links that are in your email message, the other thing that you need to do is to look at what was it, if you start getting a higher than normal click rate, what was it that made people click? Was it the way you said it? Was it what you offered? Was it what you were linking to? Really kind of take some time and evaluate that so you can come up with what is actually working. All right. Now, as you are jumping on, if you have any questions, feel free to just drop that into the comments, and I will definitely make sure that I answer those. Now, the last thing I want to say about your email list is periodically you need to clean your email list. And here's what I mean by that. There are going to be individuals that got onto your list because they were interested in a specific topic. Later on, they changed their mind and they decided that topic is no longer of interest to them, but they don't unsubscribe from your list. So those email messages are just going out and they're never getting open. That's going to obviously impact your open rate. What I would recommend you do is you've got to clean your list periodically. So if you find that people are not opening email messages, let's say after 3 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever it is, you come up with what works for you, then you may want to have those individuals removed from your email list. And the way that you do that is with most email service providers, there is a self-cleaning tool that's built into it, which, you can program it to say if, the person hasn't opened my email messages in 3 weeks, automatically remove them from the list. Now, why is that even important and why would you even want to do that? Well, first and foremost, most of the email service providers are going to charge you your monthly fee or annual fee, if that's the way you're paying, based upon the number of subscribers that you have, which means you don't want to have people subscribe to your list who are not active, who are not really interested in your content. So take the time to clean your list on a regular basis. And here's the other thing with that feature that I was just describing, that's an automatic thing. So you don't have to go in and really manually do anything with it. You have to set it initially, and then the program in most cases will run on its own. Now, what I will say to you is if you're on a free version of the email service provider that you're on, you may not have that functionality built into it. But pretty much all paid plans, regardless of the email service provider, will have that functionality built into it. Okay. So just kind of keep in mind that that is definitely something that you want to do, which is make sure that you are cleaning that list on a regular basis. All right, now let's move over to social media engagement because again, let's talk some benchmarks about this. Now, I typically talk about this on a regular basis when I'm teaching or training repurposing or reusing content. And the thing I want to share with you are some average engagement rates. So let's start off with Facebook, okay? Facebook has a 0.5 to 1% engagement rate. That typically means the number of people that are liking, commenting, and sharing. That is a very low engagement rate. And some of that has to do with the fact that, with the audience on Facebook, you don't have it can tend toward a older audience, but that doesn't mean anything because, I'll explain that to you when I get over to talking about YouTube. But there's something to be said about Facebook, which is in many ways, they're more of a pay to play type of a platform, which means if you aren't doing ads, then there's not a lot of your content that's going to be shown to your audience. And that's one of the reasons why I don't really spend a lot of time on Facebook. I do, in fact, broadcast to Facebook for this weekly live stream. And I'm looking at that to determine whether or not I'm going to continue doing that because I get way more engagement on YouTube than I do on Facebook. And again, a lot of that has to do with it being kind of a pay to play kind of a platform. Now, let's move over to Instagram. Instagram's engagement rate is 1 to 3%. So that's definitely higher than Facebook, but by all means, it's still, not as high as the platform of choice for me and for a lot of other individuals out there. So just kind of keep in mind that if you post something, and you have an audience, let's say, of 1,000 subscribers, not many of them are actually seeing the content. And also Facebook and Instagram, part of the reason too is there's just so much content that's being dropped in there that, they're constantly, meaning the algorithm for Facebook and Instagram, they're constantly showing whatever the post is that's getting the most engagement. So if you're the little guy out there and you're trying to compete with some of these larger accounts that are either using, promotional strategies and so forth, or just because they're so large, their content is being shown a little bit more, just know that, you're probably not doing anything wrong. It's just you're competing with so much other content that's out there. And again, if you're not, in fact, purchasing ads, it's definitely going to slow that down. Now, what do I mean by purchasing ads and what am I even talking about here? When you are promoting a business on Facebook or Instagram, that's when it becomes a pay for play. For example, if in fact you are just showing content or you're not dealing in the business world and you're talking about a Facebook post or something like that that's going out to your family members or friends, again, remember they're warm. And so more of them are going to see it. But whenever it has something to do with business, Facebook and Instagram are definitely not going to be showing a lot of that without you taking out ads. So just be aware of that. Which leads me to my platform of choice and what many of you, probably most of you, are actually watching me on, which is YouTube. YouTube's engagement rate is 4 to 6%. So definitely higher than both Facebook and Instagram. And another reason why I think that that happens is a lot of people are coming over to YouTube for the purposes of either learning something or to be entertained, or trying to figure something out, let's say. So one of the reasons why I think the engagement rate is higher is because let's just talk educational content. If they've come over and they found something that they really like, they may very well comment and say, hey, this is exactly what I was looking for, or thanks for creating the video, or they'll just simply like the video, or perhaps they will make the decision to subscribe to your channel. But just know that the numbers are definitely higher on YouTube than on Facebook and Instagram. So one of the reasons why I always tell people, if you're looking for a way to generate some traffic, definitely consider YouTube. Simply because a piece of content on YouTube can live for years on the platform and continue to get views. A piece of content on Facebook or Instagram is going to have a much shorter shelf life, if you will. And it's just because, again, it's just being buried amongst so much other stuff that's out there. All right, now, the other thing that I would tell you is you're not really trying to, when you're looking at these different platforms, don't focus on trying to go viral. Okay. That's really not the key. The key is to have consistency. People that are coming to your page, watching your content, consuming your content, and connecting with you on a regular basis. It's not for you to try and go viral because most people, quite frankly, aren't even ready to go viral, meaning they don't have the systems in place to really capitalize on it. So don't focus on that. And I will say this to you. I would rather have 100 engaged followers. They're much better than 1,000 silent ones. Get engaged, people that are connecting with you. They're saying hello. They are consuming your content. They're doing all of those types of things. That makes such a difference because the more engagement that you are able to get, the more the algorithms will push out your content to additional people. So just focus on that. Like I said, don't focus on trying to go viral. Focus on having a consistent audience that is in fact connecting with you. Followers that are connecting with you on a consistent basis. Let me say that that way. And let's also talk about getting seen, if you will, benchmarks to help you understand how and what it needs to take in order for you to start getting seen. So it's often going to take, and write this one down in your notes, and I'll go back through and summarize everything as we go through it. But it's often going to take either 50 to 100 videos or posts before you start getting traction on any platform. I can personally tell you that that is exactly the case for YouTube. And part of it has to do with the fact that, the algorithms are trying to figure out what it is you do. And so they're listening. They can go through and they can listen to the content. They can read the post and so forth because they're trying to figure out, who do we send this to? who's going to best enjoy this type of content. So that's why when I'm talking to people and they tell me, I only have 25 subscribers on my YouTube channel, and I'm clapping for them because, and especially when they tell me they have 5 videos. My goodness, if you got 25 subscribers after only 5 videos, you're doing great, because again, YouTube has to figure out who they should serve it to, because the last thing they want to do is to send content out to people that are not interested in your subject matter. Why? Because people are going to click off of your video, and they're likely, because of all of the distractions that they have around them, they may also click off of the YouTube platform. YouTube wants people to stay on the platform. The same thing is true for Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and any of the platforms out there, LinkedIn. They want to make sure that they have figured out what it is that you post about or that you do videos on before they start sending a bunch of traffic to you. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have a video that just takes off and goes viral, or a post that takes off and goes viral. You can, but that's not the norm. And what I'm sharing in this set of benchmarks that we're discussing are the norms, because I want you, when they happen to you, when you're experiencing them, I want you to be aware of what is normal, okay? Because most of us, we don't really know what's normal. And so when we have these expectations in our mind of how many people are going to buy a product from us, or how many people are going to subscribe to your lead magnet list, we have these expectations oftentimes that are not realistic. And so that's why this topic is happening today. Now, the other thing is, you want to focus on getting that compound growth. Now, what do I mean by the compound growth? It's kind of like the more stuff you have out there, the more that people can watch or read or share with other people. So it's not like you have 1 or 2 posts out there and they're not able to, really go on to the next piece and so forth. All right. And so this is where I like to go back to what I call my 90-day sprints. Take 90 days and post a piece of content every single day. Now, if you're doing a YouTube video, if YouTube is your platform of choice, it may not be possible for you to create a video every single day. Now, you might be unusual in that manner where you actually can do it. Most of us can't. But what you can do is you can use the community or the post section of your YouTube channel. In your post section is where you're able to put content out there in a variety of different formats to connect with people. And that, what most people don't realize, is being shown not just to your audience, it's being shown to all of YouTube that might be interested in that. Now, I'm going to stop for a second, and I want to share an example of what I mean by the YouTube community page. And I actually want to share with you something that I think is really important. So let me just take this full screen for a second, and I'm going to switch over. Give me 1 second here. And I want you to see, this is first of all the post page, but more importantly, I want you to see this message. And the message is something that you're going to have to remind yourself of on a regular basis, which is that most people give up on their businesses before the magic has time to happen. And so that's where I like to say to people, you've got to stick and stay, because if you're going to do that, what it's going to allow you to do is to ultimately figure things out on that platform so you can get a higher traction rate, so you can get a larger audience and so forth. So just be aware of that. That is definitely something you can do. I probably should have shown you more posts on that, but just know that that is a way that you can consistently get content out there. So if you're using YouTube again, maybe to post daily, what you're able to do is something like 5 or 6 post on the post page and one video per week. And because of the way that YouTube sends traffic to you, that can be a very effective growth plan. Now, if you really want to push things, do 2 videos a week. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. All right, now let's talk about the sales and income growth. So expect the early months of your audience building, or I'm sorry, let me say this way. Expect the early months of what you do to be about audience building, not necessarily about sales, because you need to bring that audience in. Now, are there ways around that? Sure. It means you're going to, in most cases, have to pay for ads, and that's perfectly fine. If in fact you want to pay for ads, then you are going to be able to get sales almost right out of the gate if your offer is good. So just kind of keep that in mind. The other thing too is, in terms of a benchmark, is most solopreneurs are going to start seeing consistent sales after they have an email list of 300 to 500 subscribers. So again, spend time building your email list. Do not neglect that. As a matter of fact, I want you to start building your email list right out of the gate. And you can create a very simple lead magnet. It just has to be something that your target audience is going to be interested in, because you need a way to push people to something that's going to get them on your email list. Now you can warm them up. Now you can start to talk about your sales, the items that you have available for sale, or if it's coaching or whatever it is that you're doing. So just kind of keep that in mind. All right, now I want to give you a few more benchmarks. I've talked primarily about, for example, we have talked about, let me go back. I'm just going to quickly give you the highlights before I go into the next section. So the first thing is, it's typically going to take 100 visits to a sales page to make 1 to 2 sales. Okay. 100 visits to a sales page, which means you got to constantly be sending traffic to your sales pages. The other thing is, your warm audience is going to convert at a higher rate. Warm audiences, you're going to be your email list or people that connect with you regularly. That is going to be about a 3 to 5% conversion rate. Let me go back to the sales page as well. Now, as you become more skilled and as you learn your audience better, you can increase that rate from 1 to 2% to, maybe 5 to 6%, but that's going to take you a while to get to that point. All right. Now, the other thing is email open rates. Remember, the average open rate is 25 to 35%. So 100 emails go out, expect 25 to 35 people to open it, and most won't. And here's the other thing I can say to you. It's not like they're all going to open it on the day you send it out. Here's what tends to happen with my list, and I would say probably everybody else. I'll get an open rate of about 20%, maybe 22% or so the first day. But as the week goes on, the longer that email is out there and sitting in someone's email inbox, the higher the rate is going to be. So then it will continue to rise on a daily basis. The best, as I said, that I've probably ever done is about a 47%. I'd have to go back, but I'm pretty sure it was 47% open rate. Okay. And on links that are embedded within your email, the average click rate is 2 to 5%. So of the people that open it, 2 to 5% are going to actually click it. All right. And for engagement rates for YouTube, 4 to 6%, Instagram, 1 to 3%. That means people liking, commenting, and sharing. Facebook, 0.5 to 1%. So, put your efforts in the right place, I guess is what I'm saying, or adjust your expectations if you're going to be using some of the other platforms. I'm not telling you not to use the platforms. I'm telling you to know the benchmarks. All right. And then let's go on and talk some additional benchmarks that I want to throw out to you. All right. So if you have a checkout page, the typical conversion rate on a checkout page is going to be about, let's see here, I want to make sure I get this right. sales page conversion rate, 1 to 3 people are going to buy. For your upsell, if you happen to have an upsell, typically that conversion rate is going to be somewhere between 15 and 25%. Okay. Another thing is once someone clicks buy on your sales page, this one might kind of blow you away. About 1 in 4 complete the purchase. That means they're in the checkout cart, they've entered all their information, but only 1 in 4 is going to complete the purchase. Why? Because people get distracted, they change their mind, lots of things happen, which is why you want to potentially have in place a email series that goes out for people who have abandoned the cart. It might have simply been that they got distracted. All right. Now, email list to customer conversion is going to be about 2 to 5%. That means 2 to 5 out of every 100 subscribers will buy via or from an email message that went out. All right. And then let's see here. We talked open rate. Let's also talk unsubscribe rate, because this is another one that comes out. Typically, your industry average for unsubscribe should be less than 0.3%. Okay. Now, here's what I will say to you. When it comes to unsubscribes, just know that they're normal. That is very normal for a variety of reasons. People change their mind. They decide they want to learn from someone else, whomever the case is. But if you start getting a huge number of unsubscribes, you need to dig into that and figure out what's going on. Now, I can tell you that, for example, there is one lead magnet that I created, and it's really good. But I would offer it going forward to people that buy digital products from me. But I offered it in a video. And so since it's out there, I can't really fully pull that back. But what I offered was something that's really good, but if people are coming to my list just for that, they're probably not going to be interested in the content that I send out on a weekly basis, simply because it's not falling within one of my normal content pillars. So you also want to make sure that whatever it is that you are offering as a lead magnet, that it is, it definitely connects with your normal content pillars. And it's not something that's kind of, this extra or something that doesn't really relate. Why? Because people are going to unsubscribe. And that's what I saw with this. Now, here's the thing. It wasn't a big number of people that unsubscribed, but for people that requested that particular lead magnet, more people unsubscribed because of that than anything else on my list. So just kind of be aware of that. And if you have any questions as we're going through any of this, feel free to drop those into the comment section and I'll answer those as well. All right, now let's talk in terms of, we talked about email opt-out rate. I'm just trying to figure out if there's anything that I wanted to share with you. Okay, so when we talk about these different benchmarks, as I said, they're just guidelines, but they're in place to help you know whether or not you're on target. Because I think oftentimes people just think that, one person went to their sales page and purchased something, and they knew they had 100 visitors, and they're thinking, well, but this is really good. Why didn't more people buy? That's normal. You are right in the target range. So it's important for you to know what's normal. Same thing with your email list. You're sending this email message out and 75% of the people are not opening it. And now you're wondering what you did wrong. Well, you didn't, because 25% did open, which is the industry average. So once you understand the averages, now you can do a couple of things. You know, one, whether or not you're on target. Number two, you can figure out if there's something you might be able to do to increase your average. And then again, as I mentioned before, also make sure that you're looking at the content that you're sending out to make sure that it aligns with what people are expecting from you. If all of a sudden you start talking about something different, well, they're either not going to open the email or they're going to begin the process of unsubscribing. All right, so just kind of keep that in mind as you are going through this. Now, why did I even? Let me just make sure I haven't missed anything. Let's see here. And again, if you have any questions, drop those in. I'll be happy to answer those. So another thing I would suggest too is that you set aside some time on a weekly basis to review your numbers. Okay, your email messages, open rates, that's going to be pretty easy to do. If you go into most email service providers, for each email message that you send out, they're going to have your open rates. At least that's been my experience. And what that allows me to do, as I mentioned, is to evaluate which things resonated better with people and then attempt to create additional content around that. Another thing is if you are posting on Facebook or Instagram, because those are your chosen platforms, figure out which posts are going to do better with people. You also may find that, aligning yourself with what the platform is pushing is going to help you out as well. So, for example, right now, if you are doing a lot of just posts on Instagram, for example, well, those posts are not likely to do as well as a reel would. So it might be better for you to just focus on creating reels, for example, in order to increase your engagement rate. And because you are doing or creating the type of content that the platform wants to push out or wants to see created, they're likely to push your content out even more, which means you'll get more engagement. But as I mentioned, it doesn't matter what platform you're on, you need to then work to get people onto your email list because you own that list, you can connect with that list, and so forth. All right. Okay. So I think that I have everything covered that I wanted to. This today was kind of a quick topic. It wasn't a whole lot because I don't want to inundate you with some of the specific details because many people are just beginning to get started. And it's no point in going through the analytics in extreme detail until you are actually at that point. Now, also, what I would suggest that you do is have some type of means of keeping or tracking the information separate from whatever the platform is. So, for example, the way I do things is I have a tracker, for example, with all of my YouTube stats, and it's just in a separate sheet. And what it allows me to do is to see whether or not I'm growing, whether or not I'm stagnant, whether or not I am, certain content is relating better with the audience and so forth. I would encourage you to do something like that. So if you're seeing that specific types of posts are really doing well, double down, make more of them, and get that into the rotation because the whole thing at this point is for you to focus on growing your audience so that you can get them onto your email list. Now, I always like to make sure that I cover this because it's not about the number of followers or subscribers as much as it is about those that are actually engaged. I want you to have a more engaged list than anything else. All right. Okay. So as we are going through, if there are any of these that really surprised you, by all means, drop them in. Feel free to ask any questions that you might have, but just make sure that you understand the benchmarks and you can incorporate them into your regular CEO activities, if you will, because remember, that's exactly who you are. You are the CEO of your business, and every good CEO reviews the numbers. They know their numbers. They know what works. They know what doesn't work. So it's not just about, trying to sell things. You have to also look at what is actually working and what isn't working. Obviously, what's working, you do more of. What isn't working, you either adjust it or you let it go altogether. All right. So with that being said, I just want to wrap up with a little bit of information that I think will potentially help you. And that is about not comparing yourself and your success to someone else's. I think oftentimes as we are building these businesses, you know, it's easy to want to look to the left or to the right, meaning looking at what somebody else is doing. Now, if you're attempting to learn from them, that's one thing. But if you're looking to the left or the right to compare yourself to somebody else, that is not a good business strategy, in my opinion. And the reason it's not a good business strategy is we are all going to grow at different rates, meaning that our audiences are going to grow at different amounts. We are also going to learn things at different amounts or at different times. You know, the old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Maybe it's something you haven't yet learned. And so that's why I wanted to talk about this as we talk about business benchmarks, because it's very easy to start comparing yourself to someone else, and you're saying to yourself, but they're, you know, they now have X number of subscribers, or they have this many followers, or they have whatever. Remember, those are vanity metrics. The whole thing is followers don't necessarily translate into sales. It doesn't necessarily translate into an engaged audience. And I'll share this with you. There are a lot of brands right now that want to do business with what they call micro influencers, even more so than with these large influencers. Why is that? Because when you are small, you are more connected to your audience, and your audience is more connected to you. So, you know, don't ever underestimate the power of being small. You might be small, but you're mighty. And that there's some benefit to being at that place because, again, you get the opportunity to really connect with them. But I do for a fact know that when you start comparing yourself to other people, that is the fastest way to frustration. It's the fastest way for you to start thinking about quitting. It's the fastest way for doubt to start seeping in. It's the fastest way for you to get imposter syndrome. And all of those things, none of those things, I should say, are good for your business. And remember what I always tell my audience, which is everything we do in this world, this online space, if you will, is something you can learn. So maybe you don't know it right now, but it's something you can learn and ultimately be successful at. What I tend to find is that the people who ultimately do not have success are the people that gave up, the people that quit, the people who refuse to learn, the people that, you know, said it's too hard. Absolutely, this stuff is hard. I never said it was easy. It's simple, but it is not easy. And a lot of it is just the mental gymnastics that we go through. Like I've mentioned, things like making sure you're not comparing yourself to people, because I really believe that for a lot of folks, that's what takes them out of the game. And then the other thing is, you know, they come into this business with the idea of, I'm going to give this 6 months, I'm going to give this a year. If that is your mentality coming in, you're going to have a really tough time and you're probably going to end up quitting. My thing is, you have to come into it with the mentality of, I will figure it out. It doesn't matter how long it's going to take me, I can figure it out. And when you come in with that type of a mentality, it doesn't matter what other people are doing. You don't compare yourself. I can honestly tell you, I do not wake up in the morning or throughout the course of the day looking at what people I consider to be my competitors are doing. I don't do that because I know the dangers, if you will, of doing that. And it's just not how I want to grow my business, because I consider myself to be somebody who has been in this game for a while. There's lots of things that I've had to learn. There's still lots of things that I need to learn. And that's probably true for you. So don't give up. Don't compare yourself to someone. Okay. All right. So, with that being the case, I know that I have kind of gotten off on a tangent with regards to that, but that's why I wanted you to know what the benchmark numbers are. So, as you go through this information, as you review it, as you start looking at it as it relates to your own numbers, Just know what's normal for you and work on what you can improve for your business, not comparing yourself to somebody else. All right. So, with that being the case, if this has been helpful to you, feel free to share it with other people, especially your business besties that are out there that might benefit from this. I'll be back here next week, Wednesday. And next week, Wednesday at noon Eastern Time, I always cover a topic that I believe is going to be beneficial for individuals who are in this online space, especially those of you that are new. And I definitely look forward to seeing you on future live streams. I also have all of my live streams that are in one playlist, and I'm going to link that probably over here. Once this video finishes uploading, it will be linked. And I would definitely encourage you to check that out because I have lots of topics that are going to assist you in growing your business, from creating content, planning content, to email growth, to selling digital products, to affiliate marketing, all sorts of things. So check out the playlist. Always watch with a notepad so that you can take notes on the information that's going to be shared. So, with that being the case, thank you so much for being on with me. And I look forward to seeing you on a future live stream or in another video. Take care. Have a great week. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Goodbye.